And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. The Cardinals Nest is a sports show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. Dean Beckman, along with Donnie Netto, the sports information director for St. Mary's. And Donnie, the M Club weekend was this past weekend. We have a lot to get to from that event, which we will later, with head baseball coach Nick Winecke, who's in the middle of fall ball for the men's baseball team, but also one of his athletes. Actually, several of his athletes were honored quite a bit at this past weekend's M Club award ceremony.
Yeah, Coach Winecke didn't have to give his athletes any type of aerobic exercise that they needed to do on that Friday night because they got plenty walking up and down the risers to get their awards. And you know, it's a great event. M Club weekend, we had a lot of people who received postseason honors, and you know, it's always nice to have everybody get together, dressed up, you know, and see them in their game uniforms, and you know, I think it's a pretty special thing when you tie that in with the Hall of Fame induction of our three Hall of Fame inductees this year. I think it kind of gives our student athletes now a little perspective on what it's like, you know, as you graduate in the special place that St. Mary's in, and you know, hopefully they look at those Hall of Fame inductees and say, hey, you know what, maybe someday that'll be me as well.
Right, no question about it. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes, tell you all about M Club weekend. But first, the volleyball team started its conference season on Wednesday night right here on HBC TV 25 against St. Kate's. And Donnie, prior to that, last weekend, they were at the Loris Invitational where they won 3 of 4. So a good start for head coach Mike Lester's team. We had him on the show last week, and he's always optimistic and high expectations. And so far, they're not disappointing.
Yeah, they aren't, and I'm really glad we didn't have any type of Cardinals Nest jinx on him as he headed into the Loris tournament.
That's been known to exist.
Yes, it has. They had another good weekend. You know, to go 3-1 in a tournament like that with the competition that they played is always good for Coach Lester. The lone loss to UW Stout, a team that has really come on this season and is having a great year. So I know that he was very happy with the way things turned out. Great individual performances from a number of different people, starting, of course, with the 2 all-tournament people in Mackie Fadness and Jenna Sullivan. Mackie, that's her second all-tournament honor. Kind of goes to show you that she has picked up right where she left off last year. She was, we speak of the M Club weekend, she was the outstanding female athlete. And you know, you look at the way she's playing on the volleyball court, you add that to her performances on the ice arena rink, and there's no surprise that she was the outstanding athlete.
Right. And with Fadness and Sullivan, they're going to get a lot of the attention because of the kills, and they lead the team in kills and all of that. I think one of the unsung stars of this team is Taylor McVeigh. She's such a key performer in many areas on that team. What have you seen from Taylor so far? She seems to be kind of the glue that holds that team together.
No question. As a senior, she's kind of stepped in the last couple of years as one of their 2 setters with Brittany Hansen, and really those 2 have really made a great dynamic duo. You know, Mike runs a 6-2 now with 2 setters, and because he's got Mackie and Cassidy on the right side, as I talked to him yesterday about this, it allows them to do a little bit more, having 2 solid setters, and Taylor's, you know, one of those seniors who's going to make sure that she makes the most of her senior year, and certainly has started out that way. I know the 2 of them, every time I do a write-up or every time you see stats, they're, you know, one's got 20 assists, the other's got 18, or vice versa, and that's very important. You know, to be able to have 2 people like that. Like I said, it allows them to run a little bit different offense, allows them to get more people who are talented enough to be in the lineup, and I think that's very important. Yeah. I think you talk a little bit about unsung heroes, and really you can kind of go with all of their defensive specialists. You know, I look at Morgan Thomas and what she has done. I know at the Ground Round Sugarloaf Classic, she had 5 aces and you know, was really instrumental in the success that they had there. And you're right, the people that kind of get the glory, or whatever you want to call it, are really the people, you know, your outsides and your right side and your middle. And you know, I think it's those other people that really are the glue that kind of hold the team together. And you hit it on the head with Taylor and Brittany Hansen and Morgan and Lex Krogstad. You know, all of those people are equally as important to the success of the Cardinals as Mackie or Jenna is.
And you brought up Morgan Thomas. 11 service aces through 9 games, and serving, a key part of volleyball. And if you can limit those other teams' chances of success go up. And as I was looking at all of the stats here for the St. Mary's volleyball team, there's almost no team stat that they don't have in favor of St. Mary's. And I guess that stands to reason with the 7-2 record, but it does go to show how consistent they are from one game to the next.
Absolutely. And I think the key is, and Mike talked about this, and we talked about it a little bit last week, is he has got a non-conference schedule that's very difficult, and it's set up that way for a reason. And so for them to be 7-2 at this stage, for them to have the numbers that you're talking about, is testament to the talent that he has and the depth that he has. He's got so many people that are just chomping at the bit to get in there and play. And I think the biggest maybe struggle, if you want to use that term, for Mike right now is getting playing time for all of his athletes, because there are so many people that are so talented, and you can only do so much with the lineup that you have.
Right, exactly. Let's turn now to women's soccer, because on Tuesday they took on Augsburg, the defending MIAC conference champion, and the women's soccer team battled them to the very end, ended up losing, but it was a 1-0 game. And the Cardinals had a good chance in that one, and they just couldn't find the back of the net.
Yeah, and Augsburg's a tough team, as you mentioned. They're the defending conference champions, and what I found really interesting is through their first 4 games, they had outscored their opponents 26-0, scoring 4 or more goals in every game. St. Mary's held them to 1 goal early in the first half, and did have a couple of outstanding chances near the end of the game to force it into overtime, but just couldn't convert. And it's disappointing, but I think that in opening the conference season against a team like Augsburg with the accolades of being the defending conference champions, that's a tough thing to do, to open your season, and for them to come away with a 1-0 loss. I think, as much as Coach Cassidy doesn't like to use moral victories, I think that certainly is one, in that they played them very tough, had some chances to convert, and I think that's really going to be the key for them this year. Is when they create a good scoring chance, they've got to make it pay off, and they can't afford to give those away, because they're going to have a lot of games that are going to be 1-0, 2-1 type of games. You convert on the opportunities you have, and you're going to be successful more often than not.
Right. The Cardinals went into that conference game against Augsburg coming off of a 2-1 win over Carroll University, and Janice Martinez didn't even hardly let the crowd settle in. I mean, she scored right away.
Yeah, so. When you score with a minute into the game, and then come back and get another one from Emma Schaefer at the 10-minute mark, that certainly shows that they can score goals. And I think that right now, I think what Coach Cassidy needs to do is maybe find a little more offensive punch. Janice and Emma have counted for 5 of St. Mary's 6 goals, with Emma having 3 and Janice having 2. So I think he needs to find a couple more people that maybe can put the ball in the net. But you got a 1-2 punch like that. That's not a bad situation to have.
And Aubrey Cornell is really doing well in goal for the Cardinals, and we'll talk more about her in some coming weeks. Men's soccer, Donnie, started off 2-0. Now they're 2-2, having lost to North Park University and Luther College, and they get their conference season underway on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I know Coach Watkins is really chomping at the bit to get the conference season underway. There's a great rivalry between them and Augsburg. There's a great rivalry between them and St. John's, who they have on Saturday. So they're excited about where they're at. I think that the Luther game, they might have felt like maybe they let one slip away there. Even though it was a 3-1 game, it was 1-1 at the halftime, and Luther scored a couple of late goals as St. Mary's was pressing. But they're excited to get the conference underway, and again, they got to play Augsburg at home, and then they finally go on the road on Saturday against St. John's. Tough place to play up in Collegeville, but it's going to be important for them to see how they do play on the road. Pete and the team love to play on the turf at St. Mary's. They love the fan support they get, but you've got to play half of your games on the road as well, and so Saturday will be a good test for them to see really where they're at.
Right, and in that game against Luther, 1 goal for the Cardinals, Jim Drescher finding the back of the net.
Yeah, his second goal of the season moves him up with Jared Wolt in terms of the team lead in goals. The one that really has really kind of struck me right now is Andrew Jaworski. Really having a solid senior year, and he's got 3 assists in 4 games, and so he's one of those people that is setting other players up, up. And as we talked about the women in terms of not spreading out their offense and finding more offensive weapons, St. Mary's is the exact opposite. They've got 3 guys with 2 goals, and then the rest of their goals are all from different players. So it's a nice thing for Coach Watkins in that he is able to spread his offense around a little bit.
All right, when we come back here on the Cardinals Nest, we're going to bring in the head baseball coach, Nick Winecke, to talk fall ball, and we'll also recap M Club Award Weekend right here on HBC TV 25.
HBC Sports has your volleyball fixed this season as your exclusive home for St. Mary's volleyball throughout the fall. The 2015 Cardinals will look to build on an impressive 20-13 mark a year ago, and you'll get to watch it happen with 5 matches brought to you live on TV 25. For the full broadcast schedule, simply visit hbci.com/sports for details to find out when the Redbirds will take the court. That's St. Mary's volleyball all season long, only on HBC Sports.
This is HBC Job Finder. Masterson Staffing has immediate openings in Winona, Stockton, and Wabasha for first, second, and third shifts. Positions as sewing and mending techs, machine relief operators, and general production labor available. Pay up to $12.50 an hour. Paid weekly with benefits. Call 507-252-8481 for detail. Email your resume to rochester@mastersonstaffing.com. For a full description, go to jobs.hbci.com.
Tune in for the Sports Buzz every Tuesday at 5:30 as a panel of local sports journalists tackle the hottest topics on everything from local high school and collegiate sports to regional discussion about the Twins, Brewers, Vikings, and Packers. With the Power Play Fantasy Football Challenge to the Rant of the Week and NFL Pick'em, the Sports Buzz is fast-paced and sure to entertain. That's new episodes of the Sports Buzz every Tuesday at 5:30 with replays only on HBC TV 25.
And welcome back to the Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. And now we have Nick Winecke joining us. Nick is the head baseball coach for St. Mary's University. And in a little bit, we'll be touching on the non-traditional season for baseball, otherwise known as fall ball. But before we get to that, guys, I want to touch on the big M Club award ceremony this past weekend at St. Mary's. It was on Friday night, and there were a lot of athletic and academic awards handed out at that one. Too many to mention here on the Cardinals Nest, but we do want to touch on 4 of the main ones and then one special one that related to baseball. So Donnie, let's start with the male scholar and female scholar athletes of the year, and that's where cross country swept the awards this time. It was Aaron Haley and Katie Stoles.
And the neat thing about that is that was the second year in a row for both of them. And I think when you look at that award, it's not only about being real good in the classroom, but you also need to make a significant contribution to your sport as well. So I think it's a nice combination. And for Aaron and Katie, they both had great careers here at St. Mary's, not only in cross country but in track and field. And certainly awesome honors for both of them.
Right. And the outstanding female athlete of the year, there were 4 nominees, and Mackie Fadness, who's a star athlete in 2 sports, in both volleyball, as we talked about, and women's hockey, won that award.
Yeah, it couldn't have happened to a nicer person. And really, I think the neat thing about Mackie, when you think about it, is as dominating as she is right now on the volleyball court, she didn't play her freshman year. She just played hockey here. So, she kind of took a year off. And a lot of times, and we can ask Coach Winecke that, you take a year off of a sport, it's pretty tough to get back to that high level. And yet, here she is, as a dominant force on the volleyball court, and a phenomenal defenseman for the Cardinal women's hockey team, and certainly a deserving person of that award.
Right. Nick, we didn't forget about you over there.
We saved the best for last.
Right? So one of your athletes won then the male outstanding athlete of the year. Again, there were 4 nominees there, and I would imagine as a head coach, it has to be an honor just to see one of your athletes get nominated. But then Ben Berkeley was this year's winner. So tell us a little bit about Ben and how it feels as a coach to see your athletes get up there.
Yeah, I think just for the program in general, it's such a great thing to be able to have. This is Ben won it actually last year as a freshman. So this is his second one in 2 years, which is very, very impressive. But the nice thing about Ben is he would trade all the individual awards in for team success, and that's kind of what you're looking for out of that kind of caliber of player. But very exciting for the program, and very exciting for Ben.
You know, we were talking a little bit off camera about how, you know, you're right in that you can really see that Ben isn't about individual accolades. He'd get up on the stage, and the first thing he wanted to do is get off of the stage. But talk a little bit about his maturity, because he came on as a freshman and really took the world by storm, and yet when he became a sophomore, he didn't miss a beat. I mean, in fact, he was probably arguably better as a sophomore than he was as a freshman.
Yeah, he works extremely hard. He's a very hard worker, very dedicated in the weight room, great student as well. He was an academic All-American last year as well. So he just does a lot of things really, really well, but he also works extremely hard for it. So he's a team first. He's a very good teammate. So all the things that are going his way is very much well-deserved.
You know, one of the things that was mentioned that night was all of the different statistical aspects to Ben's game, but the one that really stood out to me that I thought was extra special is the number of games that he's played and has gotten on base. I mean, it was just a phenomenal number. I forget the exact figures.
74 of 76.
Yeah, yep. 74 of 76 games he's played, he's gotten on base. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, and he does just a really good job of putting himself in good positions to be successful at the plate. He has a very good eye. He can hit for power. He can hit for average, obviously. So he just does a really good job. You don't get people like him every single day, and people ask how it is to coach him, and I really say I just try to leave him alone and don't screw him up. So that's kind of the best thing, but it's pretty special what he's been able to do over 2 years.
You know, I thought on the men's side, in terms of the outstanding athlete, it really was a phenomenal field of four. Mm-hmm. You look at Martin Gruss, who like Ben was an All-American, and then you've got Javon Newsom and Morris Dennis, who both qualified for the national championships in cross country and track and field respectively. And it was a great field of women as well. But the men, to be on that national stage like that, I think is really impressive. And you know, you certainly have to tip your caps to all of them in terms of great seasons they had last year, and really all of them hopefully will pick up right where they left off. Right. I think the one neat award that happened at M-Club weekend, again, it was a baseball player, but Drew Denning getting the Gold Glove. I think that not only was the award neat, I mean, it was literally a Gold Glove, but what it stood for in the fact that you've got 9 of those in Division III, and there's one for each position, and Drew earned it for second base. Talk a little bit about the award and then your second baseman earning it.
Yeah, the ABC and ABCA in Rawlings does a phenomenal job. It's essentially just like the big leaguers will get their Gold Glove. It's the same trophy. So it's a pretty impressive trophy, number one. Number two, what Drew was able to do last year and having one error all season long and having a high amount of chances and assists. It's a pretty impressive year for playing the middle infield, and we will miss him for sure. So.
Yeah, and just one error last year for Drew, and he probably dwells on that error. Hopefully.
If I remember right, we had to go back and look where it was because we didn't remember.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
And actually, it was on a ground ball that he tried probably turning a double play, and he probably shouldn't have just took one out.
Sure.
So you can't fault them for trying to make something happen.
Right.
So.
So, Nick, now let's touch on your non-traditional season, which is going on right now. So in the fall, you have a set number of days that you can get together with the team. So kind of talk about that non-traditional season, what the rules are for that, what you can and can't do, and what you think of
Yeah, absolutely. NCAA allows, and our conference allows us to have 12 practices. And throughout those 12 practices, we get 4 hours on those days to be able to work with the athletes. So they're a little bit longer days. But you can be creative and do some small group stuff and then do some team stuff as well. So extremely valuable to have in the fall. It's really where we have our tryout period or our tryout time. We started the fall with 55 guys, and we'll get down to the 40-ish number somewhere in there. But it's great. We have great weather, so that makes it a lot of really, really exciting, and it's been a good group of guys.
You know, one of the things I've noticed over the last couple of years is how you guys approach fall ball. It's not just going out and practicing, because you throw some fun into it. I know you have a little tournament that you know, World Series that you guys do. How important is it to make this fun? Because really, like you said, you get 12 dates. A lot of these players don't necessarily know each other if they're the freshmen coming in or whatever. How important is that to keep it entertaining, light, but yet still get what you need done?
Yeah, I think it's important for us. It's important, number one, we have to figure out what team we want to move forward with. So it's very competitive. And we do a draft for the Cardinal World Series where there's 2 captains on each team, and we do a live draft like the NFL. They can make trades. They can do a lot of different fun stuff. But yeah, it adds some excitement, but more than anything else, it ups the competition level. So from our standpoint, that's the big part. We had the first round of games last week, and you could tell instantly that the intensity level picked up dramatically. Yep, it's fun, and that's what it's supposed to be, but for our standpoint, it puts them in some pressure situations, and we can see what we can work with.
Looking ahead to the spring, I know you just finished solidifying your schedule,
Yep.
the 40-game schedule. Still don't know who you play when you go on your spring trip, but obviously one of the games that caught my eye is the last one you added on March 30th. You're going to play the University of Minnesota up at Siebert Field. Talk a little bit about that and really what you guys will get out of a game like that against a Division I team.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great opportunity. We're very thankful for the University of Minnesota having us come up. It's actually their first home game of the season, played there, and obviously with our connection, having TJ Oakes, our pitching coach, he played at the University of Minnesota. His dad's the pitching coach there. So we have a connection there. So it'll be really exciting for him and his family, but also exciting for our guys. We want to go up there and be able to compete, enjoy it, and see what we can do.
All right, Nick, so as far as the spring trip, do we know where we're going yet for that spring trip?
Yeah, we're heading back down to the Orlando area. So we'll go for 10 days and play 10 games. So and hopefully have a good trip.
Real quickly, and I know we're running out of time for this segment, but in terms of that spring trip, it's very early for you guys this year.
Yeah.
So how important is it, not only the fall ball, but to take what you learn at the spring trip and be able to handle a couple of weeks before you'll be able to probably get outside?
Yeah, with the kind of crazy calendar this year, it's going to be a little tricky. You know, we fly out the third Saturday of February, so we'll only have about 3 weeks to get ourselves ready, and then we come back and we could potentially be sitting inside for 3 weeks. So we're hoping that doesn't happen because we'd like to keep the momentum going, but we'll do what we can, and you know, the weather will always be crazy in the spring, so we'll just deal with it.
Right. If we could bottle some of the weather we're having right now and save it for spring, wouldn't that be
Absolutely.
great? All right, Nick Winecke, baseball coach for the Cardinals, thanks for joining us.
Thank
today.
you guys.
All right, stay tuned. Donnie and I will be back to talk golf and cross country. That's next here on HBC.
Join HBC Sports' Extra Point one-camera coverage of high school football and soccer throughout the fall, presented by Lewiston Auto. In addition to our Football Night Crew broadcasts, Extra Point will bring you 8 games from the gridiron and 9 games from the pitch. For the full slate of games, simply visit hbci.com/sports to find out when your team will be on the field. That's Extra Point coverage of HBC Sports presented by Lewiston Auto, all fall, only on TV 25.
Tune in for the Sports Buzz every Tuesday at 5:30 as a panel of local sports journalists tackle the hottest topics on everything from local high school and collegiate sports to regional discussion about the Twins, Brewers, Vikings, and Packers. With the Power Play Fantasy Football Challenge to the Rant of the Week and NFL Pick'em, the Sports Buzz is fast-paced and sure to entertain. That's new episodes of the Sports Buzz every Tuesday at 5:30 with replays only on HBC TV 25. Want the latest news on St. Mary's University athletics? Watch the Cardinals Nest on HBC TV 25. Dean Beckman and SMU Sports Information Director Donnie Netto will talk about the past week in Cardinal athletics, highlighting the best in each Cardinal sports team. Player and coach guests will add their stories and insight each week with new shows Thursdays at 5 p.m. and replays Fridays at 6:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 7:30 a.m. on HBC TV 25.
And we're back to wrap things up here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC TV 25. Dean Beckman along with Sports Information Director Donnie Netto. And we'll, in this segment, touch on both golf and cross country, men's and women's golf. And Donnie, we'll start with the men. They were at the Tim Carthage Invitational, 12th after the first day, but then after day 2, they jumped up all the way to 6th place. So a really impressive showing.
Yeah, they are having an outstanding beginning to the fall, and you know, I talked to Coach Moore today, and it's like, you know, this is great, and we got to keep this momentum rolling because really, it really comes down to those 3 days in early October when they're at the MIAC Championships when it's for all the marbles. But boy, the rounds that they're turning in now are phenomenal, and you know, you look at the Tim Kepka Invitational, and and you talk about Blake Westerberg starts out with a career best 71, follows it up with a 75, and Brett Jackson just turns around and does it the opposite. He shoots a first day 75 and comes back with a 71 the second day, and so those two led the way for the Cardinals. And it's kind of funny. We were talking off camera. I asked what Kyle Brode had shot at this, and he shot a second round 72, which is 1 over par, and that's still 3 shots higher than his career best because he shot that 3 under 69 the week before at Augsburg. So it's a great time for the golfers. They're playing very well. I'm sure that the weather certainly has something to do with that. It's when you get nice conditions, it's a little easier to score well. But the depth that they're showing is really what's the difference, And it isn't just 2 people that are carrying them from 12th to 6th. You need everybody turning in good, solid scores, and right now that's what they're doing. Hunter Rao had a great weekend as well. So if you can get 4 guys that are shooting consistently in the 70s, we're going to be talking a lot about how well they're playing. And right now, Brett Jackson has had 4 straight rounds of 75 or lower, and we have not had players like that to talk about in a number of years. So it's an exciting time for the men.
And St. Mary's back in action this weekend. They'll be as part of the St. John's Invitational. A couple of different locations, though.
Yeah, and it's traditionally that way. They play at 2 different courses up in the St. Cloud area, and it's a great tournament. It'll be a really good chance for the Cardinals to kind of see where they fit with the rest of the conference, because most of the conference teams will be playing in this tournament, and you can kind of use it as a measuring stick. But like I said, nothing will really matter until they play in October up at Bunker Hills. But it's an exciting tournament. It's a lot of fun. You get some great teams. St. John's traditionally is an outstanding team. St. Thomas, Bethel, St. Olaf, they're all up there. So it's going to be a great tournament for the Cardinals.
And on the women's side, Caitlin King and Haley Jung continue to shoot well. They were at the Wartburg Invitational.
Yeah, Caitlin King, she missed the first tournament and came back, and she went 85-85 in her first two rounds, and then last weekend she threw in an 83. So she's playing very well. And Haley has been probably the most consistent golfer they've had this fall, and is doing an outstanding job. As we talked about last week, I think the key with the women right now is they've got to get some consistency and some lower scores from the 4, 5, and 6 members of the team. You've got to have some scores that are in the low 90s, upper 80s if they're gonna really make any type of a run. But it's still early in the season for them, and hopefully they can continue to improve with Caitlin and Haley and Madison Gately, leading the way. The future certainly is bright for them.
And this weekend, it's the Carleton D3 Classic, which is held at the Jewel in Lake City.
Yeah, and the same thing as the St. John's Invitational. It's a great chance for the ladies to compete against teams in the conference and kind of see where they stack up as they prepare for early October MIC championships.
And finally, Donnie, the cross-country teams, both women and men, they're in South Bend, Indiana at the Notre Dame Invitation.
Yeah, the National Catholic Championships are at Notre Dame, hosted by Notre Dame in South Bend. And I just talked to Coach Barrett before we came on the air, and he's really excited about the chance that their athletes have, not only to compete against by far probably the largest field of competition they'll have, but also a chance to kind of bond as a team as they take the bus ride out to South Bend and kind of check out Notre Dame. It's a beautiful campus, and they'll get a little time to kind of walk around and sightsee a little bit. And I liked Coach Barron's comment that it's the same distance to South Bend, Indiana, as it is to Concordia. So, they've got to make the trip to Concordia, only they get to go all the way to South Bend, Indiana.
Right. Yeah. And as you said, just the level of competition and the amount of competition will be great for them. So, All right, Donnie Netto, thanks again for this edition of the Cardinals Nest. And thanks to you for watching, and our guest Nick Winecke as well. Tune in again next week for another Cardinals Nest on HBC.